Ambassador Min-Jun Kim walked through the crystal corridors of Nexus Prime, his steps echoing against walls that sparkled with alien technology. For 15 years, this place had been his second home. The massive space station orbited no planet, floating in neutral space where all species could meet as equals. At least, that was what Min-Jun had believed. He nodded to a Vrex diplomat as he passed. The insectoid creature clicked its mandibles in greeting, its compound eyes reflecting the station's lights. Min-Jun had learned to read their body language years ago. The Vrex had seemed like friends. So had the Thalons, the Zeraf, and all the others who made up the Galactic Council. Today was the Grand Assembly, where humanity would finally receive full voting status in the Council. Earth had worked hard for this moment, proving themselves peaceful and cooperative. They had shared their art, their music, their technology. They had opened their worlds to alien visitors. They had done everything right. Min-Jun entered his temporary quarters to review the ceremony details one final time. As he sat at his desk, his datapad chimed with an incoming file. The sender was listed as anonymous. His security training told him to delete it immediately, but something made him hesitate. He opened it. The file contained thousands of documents, all marked with the highest security classifications from different alien governments. Min-Jun's hands began to shake as he read. He went through page after page, his stomach twisting tighter with each word. It was called the Harvest Accord, signed secretly by every major species in the Galactic Council, signed 12 years ago, just 3 years after humanity had made first contact. The document outlined a plan in cold, clinical language. Humanity would be designated a slave race for the entire galaxy. Min-Jun read the justifications they had written. Humans were intelligent enough for complex tasks, but young enough to have no powerful allies. They bred quickly and adapted to different environments easily. Their bodies were strong and their minds were clever. They would make perfect workers for the dangerous jobs that other species did not want to do. The file showed how carefully they had planned everything. The friendly diplomatic missions had been intelligence gathering. Every cultural exchange had included medical teams studying human biology, looking for weaknesses. The alien merchants who had visited Earth's colonies were mapping populations and defenses. The Council had encouraged humans to spread out to different worlds, not because they welcomed humanity's growth, but because scattered colonies would be easier to attack and capture. 16 species had signed the accord. Not just a few criminal organizations or rogue governments. Every major civilization in the Council had agreed that humanity should be enslaved. The Vrex had proposed it. The Thalons had provided the legal framework. The Zeraf had designed the weapons. Species that Min-Jun had called friends had spent years planning to chain his people. The documents showed detailed plans for the attack. Simultaneous strikes on all 40 human colonies. Stun weapons and neural disruptors specifically calibrated for human nervous systems. Transport ships ready to carry billions of captives to slave markets across the galaxy. The attack would begin within days, right after the Grand Assembly ceremony. They wanted humanity relaxed and celebrating, completely unprepared. Min-Jun sat frozen, trying to process what he had learned. Every smile had been a lie. Every treaty had been a trap. The galaxy did not see humans as partners or friends. They saw property, resources to be harvested like minerals or timber. His hands moved almost automatically, copying the files to a secure quantum transmitter hidden in his quarters. Earth needed to know. Earth needed to prepare. But even as he worked, Min-Jun realized how hopeless it seemed. Humanity had scattered across 40 worlds. Their military was decent, but designed for defense, not for fighting 16 species at once. How could they possibly survive? The door to his quarters suddenly opened. 3 Vrex security officers entered, their weapons already drawn. Behind them stood Ambassador Zethan, the Vrex who had mentored Min-Jun for years, who had taught him about galactic politics and called him friend. I am sorry you found that information, Zython said, his translator making his clicking speech into flat, emotionless words. You were not supposed to know until it was over. We wanted to spare you the fear. Minjun backed away slowly. Spare me? You were planning to enslave my entire species. Not enslave. Employ, Zython corrected. You would have been cared for, fed, housed. Your role in galactic society would have been clear and purposeful. Many of your kind would have found satisfaction in their work. We would have been slaves, Minjun said, his voice cold. Property. You were going to destroy everything we built. Zython's mandibles twitched in what might have been sadness or might have been nothing at all. Your species is young. You have no ancient claims, no historical territory. The galaxy was divided long before you reached the stars. There is no room for another sovereign power, but there is always need for workers. We were giving humanity a place in the galactic order. By taking away our freedom. Freedom is overrated by young species, Zython said. Security and purpose matter more. In time, your grandchildren would have understood. The Vrex security officers moved closer. Minjun knew he had seconds at most. His hand slammed down on the transmitter button. The device hummed, then exploded in a shower of sparks as one of the officers shot it. But the transmission had already begun. The files were racing toward Earth through quantum channels, faster than any ship could follow. It is done, Minjun said quietly. Earth knows everything. Zython's body language shifted to something Minjun could not read. Then the harvest must begin early. We had hoped to avoid military conflict. Your warning will change nothing except the casualty count. Minjun was taken to a detention cell deep in Nexus Prime. Hours later, through the small window, he saw the fleets gathering. Hundreds of ships from 16 different species, all preparing to jump to human space. The largest military force ever assembled by the Galactic Council. As the fleets vanished into hyperspace, Minjun pressed his hand against the cold wall and whispered a prayer. Not for himself, but for the billions who had no idea what was coming, for the children who would wake up tomorrow in chains, for the civilization that had reached for the stars with hope and would find only betrayal. The galaxy had made its choice. Now, humanity would have to make theirs. And Minjun wondered, trapped and helpless, what choice his species could possibly make against such overwhelming power. Commander Park Ji-woo stood on the bridge of the defense station orbiting New Busan colony when the first alien ships appeared. One moment, the space around the colony was empty. The next, 300 vessels materialized in perfect attack formation. Vrex cruisers, Thalon warships, Zeref carriers, and a dozen other species he recognized from diplomatic files. All hands to battle stations, he said calmly, though his heart hammered in his chest. Launch all fighters. Activate planetary shields. The warning from Ambassador Minjun had arrived just 6 hours earlier. 6 hours to prepare for what the message called the harvest. 6 hours to ready defenses against 16 species who had spent years planning this attack. It was not nearly enough time. Park's wife and 2 daughters lived on New Busan's surface. He had sent them to the emergency shelters as soon as the warning came. Now he could only hope those shelters would be enough. The alien fleet did not bother with communication or demands. They simply attacked. Weapons fire lit up space as human ships moved to intercept. Park's forces fought with desperate courage. But they were overwhelmed. For every alien ship destroyed, 3 more took its place. The aliens used weapons Park had never seen before. Blue energy beams that passed through shields and disabled ship systems instantly. Missiles that split into dozens of smaller projectiles, each one tracking a different target. Most terrifying were the neural disruptors, designed specifically to affect human biology. Any crew member caught in their field collapsed unconscious within seconds. Park watched his fleet die around him. The defense station shuddered as alien weapons tore through its hull. Emergency alarms screamed throughout the corridors. Through the viewport, he saw landing craft descending toward New Busan's cities. Thousands of them, like a swarm of locusts. "Sir, we have to evacuate," his second officer said. "Not yet," Park said. "Route all remaining power to the station's main cannon. Target their command ship. That will leave life support with no backup power. Do it." The station's massive cannon fired one last time, its beam cutting through space and punching through a Vrex dreadnought's shields. The alien ship broke apart in a beautiful, terrible explosion. Park felt no satisfaction. It was one ship among hundreds. The station's power failed. Emergency lights flickered on, casting everything in red shadows. Park and his crew made it to the escape pods, launching away from the dying station just before it exploded behind them. As his pod descended toward New Busan, Park saw the harvest happening below. Alien soldiers moved through the streets with brutal efficiency. Humans who resisted were stunned unconscious. Families were separated, loaded onto different transport ships. The aliens had done this before on other worlds. Their tactics were perfect and merciless. Park's pod crashed in the outskirts of New Busan's capital city. He and his surviving crew armed themselves with whatever weapons they could find and tried to reach the shelter where his family had gone. But the aliens were everywhere. He saw neighbors he had known for years dragged from their homes. He saw children crying for parents who could not reach them. He saw the neural disruptors used on crowds of civilians, leaving hundreds of unconscious humans stacked like cargo. A Thalon soldier spotted Park's group and opened fire. They fought back, but their weapons were meant for human opponents. The aliens' armor shrugged off their bullets. Park watched 3 of his crew die before they managed to bring the creature down with concentrated fire at its joints. They reached the shelter to find it had already been breached. Alien soldiers were methodically removing the humans hiding inside, scanning each one with strange devices before sorting them into groups. Park pushed forward, searching desperately for his family. He found them near the back. His wife, Soo-jin, held their 2 daughters close. When she saw Park, relief flooded her face for just a moment before fear returned. An insectoid Vrex soldier was approaching them, scanner in hand. Park raised his weapon, but a neural disruptor blast from behind dropped him to his knees. His body would not obey his commands. He could only watch as the Vrex scanned his family and marked them with glowing tags. The tags designated them for transport to different locations, his wife to one ship, his daughters to another. "No," Park tried to say, but his mouth would not work. "Please, no." Soo-jin looked at him, tears streaming down her face. She mouthed the words, "I love you," as aliens dragged her away. His daughters screamed for their mother, then for him, as different soldiers carried them toward the transport ships. Park lay paralyzed on the shelter floor while the harvest continued around him. Hours passed before the neural disruptor's effects faded enough for him to move. By then, the aliens were gone. New Busan's streets were empty. 50 million humans had lived on this colony. Now there were perhaps a few 100,000 left, those the aliens had deemed too old or too sick to be worth taking. Similar scenes played out across all of humanity's colonies. New Hope fell in 2 days. Armstrong Station lasted 3. The colony on Tau Ceti fought for a week before being overwhelmed. Everywhere the story was the same. Human forces fought bravely but were crushed by superior numbers and technology specifically designed to counter their defenses. Earth itself remained free, but barely. The combined alien fleets formed a blockade, cutting off all supply lines and communications. 5 billion humans had been captured in the first 2 weeks of the harvest. Earth's remaining population of 10 billion could only watch in horror as images of slave markets reached them through hacked alien channels. The markets operated openly on a dozen different worlds. Humans were displayed like livestock, sorted by age, health, and skills. Buyers bid on individual humans or bought them in bulk. Strong men went to mining operations on airless worlds. Skilled workers went to factories. Women and children were bought by wealthy families as domestic servants. The prices varied, but all were surprisingly cheap. Humanity's value had been calculated and found to be low. In the emergency bunker beneath Earth's capital, the planetary government held an endless session. Representatives from every nation argued about what to do. Some wanted to negotiate, to surrender peacefully in exchange for better treatment of the enslaved humans. Others wanted to keep fighting despite the impossible odds. General Yoon Min-seok, commander of Earth's Defense Force, listened to the arguments for 3 days before he finally spoke. "Negotiation is pointless," he said. "They do not see us as people. They see us as resources. Fighting conventionally is also pointless. We cannot match their numbers or technology." "Then what do you suggest?" the council leader asked. "Surrender." "No," Yoon said quietly. "I suggest we stop fighting like we have something to lose. Our people are already enslaved. Our colonies are already destroyed. We have nothing left to protect except Earth itself. And if Earth falls, humanity ends anyway." He placed a data chip on the table. "For 15 years, while we played diplomat and friend to the galaxy, we also prepared for the possibility of betrayal. We have weapons the Council has never seen. Weapons we hoped never to use. They are terrible weapons, cruel weapons. Weapons that do not just win battles but erase entire species." The room fell silent. "If we use these weapons, there is no going back," Yoon continued. "The galaxy will see us as monsters. They may unite to destroy us completely, but they will also return our people. They will beg us to stop, and then they will never, ever threaten humanity again." The vote took hours. When it finished, the result was unanimous. Earth would not surrender. Earth would not negotiate. Earth would show the galaxy what happened when you tried to chain humanity. Commander Park Ji-woo, back on Earth and promoted despite his failure to save New Busan, received his new orders directly from General Yoon. He read them 3 times before he believed what they said. "Are we really going to do this?" he asked. "They took everything from us," Yoon said. "Now we take everything from them." Park thought of his wife and daughters, somewhere in the galaxy, wearing slave collars and serving alien masters. He thought of the 5 billion other humans suffering the same fate. He thought of the children who would be born into slavery, who would never know freedom. "When do we begin?" he asked. The hidden military stations activated throughout the solar system, emerging from behind moons and asteroids where they had waited for 15 years. Commander Park Ji-woo stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Righteous Fury, one of 20 massive warships that had been built in secret while humanity smiled and shared culture with the galaxy. These were not defensive vessels. Every system, every weapon, every piece of technology had one purpose: overwhelming offensive power. The ships did not carry names like Hope or Unity. They carried names like Vengeance, Retribution, and Extinction, because humanity had learned what the galaxy really thought of them. "All ships report ready," the communications officer said. Park looked at the display showing his fleet. Around him were the other 19 dreadnoughts, each carrying weapons that would make the Galactic Council wish they had simply left humanity alone. Behind them came hundreds of cruisers, destroyers, and carrier ships loaded with fighters. This was not Earth's entire military. This was just the first wave. "Set course for the Rex homeworld," Park commanded. "Maximum speed." The fleet jumped into hyperspace, crossing the galaxy in 3 days. When they emerged at the edge of the Rex system, alarms immediately sounded on every Rex station and ship. The insectoid species had grown comfortable in their power. They had enslaved dozens of species over thousands of years. They had led the conspiracy against humanity. Now they would be the first to pay. The Vrex defense fleet moved to intercept, over 500 ships protecting their home system. Park did not bother with threats or warnings. He simply gave the order to fire. The human weapons were nothing like what the galaxy had seen before. Particle beams that burned through shields like they did not exist, missiles that could track targets through hyperspace jumps, and most devastating biological weapons that humanity had spent 15 years perfecting. During the cultural exchanges, humanity had obtained samples of every major species' genetics. They had done this carefully, politely, under the guise of medical research and scientific cooperation. The aliens had freely shared, never imagining what humans would do with that information. Now that research bore terrible fruit. The first wave of missiles that hit the Vrex homeworld did not carry explosives. They carried engineered pathogens designed specifically for Vrex biology. The diseases spread through their hive connections, jumping from one insectoid to another with perfect efficiency. Within 24 hours, every major population center on the Vrex homeworld was infected. The Vrex had no natural immunity. The diseases attacked their respiratory systems, their nervous systems, their ability to communicate through pheromones. The victims died in agony, their hive minds fracturing and screaming across their neural networks. The death of one spread panic and pain to all others connected to them. Park watched the sensor readings as the Vrex population crashed. 17 billion lives. He felt nothing. They had planned to enslave his entire species. They had torn his family apart. This was justice. The Vrex defense fleet, confused and horrified by what was happening to their homeworld, tried to mount a counterattack. Human ships tore through them methodically. The battles were not even close. Humanity's weapons had been designed by people who knew they would only get one chance. Every shot counted. Every system worked perfectly. Within 72 hours, the Vrex homeworld was silent. The once proud species that had dominated the galactic slave trade for millennia was reduced to scattered survivors on distant colonies, all of them knowing their civilization was finished. The galaxy watched in horror. Every species monitored the destruction, seeing the recordings that humanity deliberately broadcast. Park made sure they all understood the message. This is what happens when you threaten humanity. The human fleet did not stop. They jumped to the Thalon ocean worlds next. The aquatic species had provided the legal framework for the Harvest Accord, writing the laws that declared humanity could be property. They lived in vast underwater cities on 12 different planets, their civilization built in the depths of alien seas. Humanity showed them the depths of human fury instead. The weapons dropped into Thalon oceans were not bombs. They were thermal devices that superheated water on a molecular level. The seas began to boil. Steam rose in massive clouds that choked the atmosphere. The Thalon fled their cities, but there was nowhere to go. Their entire civilization depended on liquid water, and humanity was taking it away. Some Thalon tried to evacuate to space stations, but human fighters hunted them down. Others tried to surrender, begging for mercy. Park's response was broadcast across all channels. You gave our children no mercy. You sold them like animals. We will give you exactly what you gave us. Nothing. The Thalon worlds became dead, dry rocks orbiting their stars. Another civilization erased from the galaxy. The Zeref tried to prepare defenses when they saw the human fleet approaching their crystalline habitats. The silicon-based life forms had designed the neural disruptors used in the harvest. They had studied human biology and created weapons specifically to enslave humanity efficiently. They thought their unique biology would protect them from human weapons. They were wrong. Humanity had studied them too. The resonance weapons that human ships fired were calibrated to the exact frequency of Zeref crystalline structures. The weapons caused the aliens' bodies to vibrate at frequencies they could not withstand. The Zeref literally shattered. their crystalline forms breaking apart into dust. Their habitats, beautiful structures that had taken centuries to grow, crumbled as the resonance weapons swept through them. In the cold vacuum of space, the Zeref died silently, their civilization's achievements turning to glittering debris. 10 species watched the destruction of 3 major civilizations and immediately began returning their human captives. Transport ships raced toward human space. Their cargo holds full of freed slaves, their governments desperately broadcasting apologies and surrender. But 6 species refused. They believed humanity was bluffing, that Earth could not possibly sustain this level of warfare. They thought the moral cost would make humans stop. They believed there had to be limits to human fury. They were wrong about all of it. General Yoon contacted Park from Earth with new orders. The 6 who refused to return our people have their coordinates. The Krell, the Morphians, the Dexari, the Solvorians, the Kryn, and the Heptar. Show them no mercy. Make it clear to the entire galaxy what the price of defying humanity truly is. Park thought about his daughters. Intelligence reports suggested they had been sold to a Krell military family as servants. His wife was somewhere in Morphian space. He had received recordings of the slave markets where they had been displayed and sold. The recordings were meant to break human morale. Instead, they broke something else in Park, something that might have once been called mercy. "Understood," he said. "We will erase them." Ambassador Minjun Kim, freed when the council collapsed in panic, managed to get a message to Park before the next attack began. "Commander, please. 10 species have surrendered. They are returning our people. The galaxy understands the message. We can stop now. We can show that humanity is better than this." Park read the message and sent back a single sentence. "They would have enslaved our grandchildren. There will be no next time." The human fleet split into 6 task forces, each assigned to erase one of the refusing species from existence. They carried weapons even more terrible than what they had already used. Nanite swarms programmed with specific genetic targets, gravity weapons that could collapse a planet's core, stellar torpedoes that could destabilize a star and turn it into a system-killing bomb. As the fleets jumped toward their targets, Park stood alone on his bridge and looked at an image of his family from before the harvest. His daughters smiling, his wife laughing, all of them free and happy. "I will bring you home," he whispered to the image. "No matter what I have to become to do it." Behind him, his crew prepared the weapons that would kill billions more. They worked in silence, their faces showing no emotion. They had all lost someone in the harvest. They had all seen the slave markets. They had all made the same choice Park had. Mercy was for species who deserved it. The Galactic Council had proven they did not. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity remembered every wrong and repaid every debt, with interest that would be measured in extinction. The Krell had built their civilization on conquest and military pride. They were warriors who had defeated every species they had encountered in battle. They had 3 homeworlds, each one a fortress covered in weapons and defended by fleets that had never known defeat. When they heard humanity was coming, they laughed and prepared for war. Commander Park Ji-woo's task force arrived at the first Krell world with a simple message broadcast on all frequencies. "Return every human in your possession within 1 hour or this world dies." The Krell High Commander responded with mockery. "Come and take them, if you can. We do not fear children playing with weapons they do not understand." Park checked the countdown timer. When it reached 0, he gave the order. "Fire stellar torpedoes, all 3 stars." The Krell system had 3 suns, a rare configuration that made their worlds warm and bright. The torpedoes that struck each star were small devices, but they carried compressed dark matter cores that destabilized stellar fusion. The reaction would take time, but it was irreversible. The Krell did not realize what humanity had done until their stars began to flicker. Scientists across all three worlds detected the anomaly simultaneously and understood with growing horror. Their sons were dying, not in millions of years, but in hours. Panic spread through the Krell civilization. Their massive defense fleets suddenly had no purpose. You could not shoot a dying star. You could not defend against physics itself. They had minutes to evacuate 3 entire worlds, and nowhere near enough ships to do it. Park watched on his displays as the Krell abandoned their military pride and begged for evacuation assistance. He watched families scramble for escape pods. He watched children crying in the arms of parents who knew there was no escape. He watched all of it and felt nothing. "Sir, they are trying to surrender," his communications officer said. "They say they will return the humans immediately." "Too late," Park said. "They had their chance." The 3 suns collapsed within 6 hours of each other. Each collapse created a shockwave that sterilized every planet in the system. The Krell homeworlds, fortresses that had stood for 10,000 years, became chunks of burned rock orbiting dead stars. 400 billion Krell died. Their scattered colonies across the galaxy suddenly found themselves alone, their civilization's heart torn out. The Morphean Collective tried to hide when they learned what happened to the Krell. They were shapeshifters who lived in the Great Veil Nebula, their colonies scattered among gas clouds where sensors could not easily find them. They thought the nebula would protect them. Humanity found them anyway. Human ships had been built with sensors specifically designed to track the Morpheans' unique energy signatures. Every colony was located within a day. Then the human fleet deployed weapons that ignited the nebula's gases. The Veil Nebula burned. Trillions of tons of hydrogen and helium caught fire in a chain reaction that spread across light years. The beautiful clouds that had been home to the Morpheans became a blazing hell. The colonies tried to evacuate, but the fire moved faster than their ships. The Morphean Collective, which had existed for 50,000 years, died in 3 days of fire. Park received a message from his intelligence officers. They had located his wife. She was on a Morphean station that had been deep in the nebula. The station was gone now, consumed by the fire that humanity had set. He stood on his bridge, staring at the burning nebula on the display, and felt something crack inside him. Su Jin was dead. Not killed by their enemies, but by his own weapons. He had set the fire that killed her. His second officer approached cautiously. "Sir, the Morphean colonies are destroyed. Should we proceed to the next target?" Park wanted to scream. He wanted to collapse. He wanted to undo everything. But his daughters were still alive somewhere, still enslaved. He could not stop now. "Proceed," he said, his voice empty. The Dexari tried to fight conventionally. They marshaled their fleets and met humanity in open battle near their industrial worlds. It was a mistake. Human weapons tore through their ships like paper. The nanite swarms were released on their planets, programmed to consume Dexari genetic material specifically. The Dexari soldiers on the surface watched in horror as the gray swarm descended from orbit. The nanites consumed everything organic that matched Dexari DNA. Plants they had brought from their homeworld, their food supplies, their bodies. The swarm left buildings and technology untouched, but every Dexari on those worlds simply dissolved into component atoms. Clean, efficient, absolute. The Solvorians surrendered after seeing what happened to the Dexari. They broadcast their surrender across every channel, returning the humans they held and begging for mercy. Park's fleet arrived at their worlds anyway. "We do not accept surrender," Park broadcast to the terrified population. "You had your chance. This is not war. This is extinction." Gravity weapons struck the Solvorian homeworld. The planet's core began to collapse. Earthquakes shattered cities. Volcanoes erupted across the surface. The planet was destroying itself from within, and there was nothing anyone could do to stop it. The Solvorians died screaming, their world cracking apart beneath them. The Kryn tried to flee into dark space, beyond the mapped galaxy where they thought humanity could not follow. Human hunter ships pursued them into the void. There was no hiding, no escape. Every Kryn colony ship was found and destroyed. Every refugee station was eliminated. Humanity did not leave survivors to rebuild. The Heptar were last. They were aquatic telepaths who had never personally harmed any humans, but had voted in favor of the Harvest Accord. They sent Ambassador Min Jun desperate pleas, arguing they had only followed the Council's lead, that they did not deserve extinction for one vote. Min Jun brought their pleas to Park. "Commander, the Heptar are asking for mercy. They released their human captives weeks ago. They have tried to make amends." "Did they show mercy to those captives when they voted to enslave them?" Park asked. "Did they care that families would be torn apart? That children would grow up in chains?" "No. But we can choose to be better than them. We can show the galaxy that humanity has limits, that we punish but do not genocide." Park thought of his daughters, still lost somewhere in the galaxy. He thought of his wife, dead in fire he had set. He thought of 5 billion humans who had been treated like animals. "The galaxy needs to learn that threatening humanity has consequences that last forever," Park said. "No species that supported the harvest can be allowed to survive. If even one remains, others might think they could try again someday. Our grandchildren deserve a galaxy that fears humanity too much to ever consider enslaving them." "At what cost?" Min Jun asked. "How many billions have we killed? How many civilizations have we erased? When does it end?" "When it is done," Park said. The human fleet arrived at the Heptar homeworld. The telepathic species broadcast their last thoughts across the galaxy as the weapons struck. Fear, regret, pleading, then silence. 4 species had been completely erased from existence. Trillions dead. Their homeworlds were lifeless or destroyed. Their cultures were gone. Their languages would never be spoken again. Humanity had done in weeks what the galaxy had thought impossible. They had proven that even ancient, powerful civilizations could be ended if they threatened the wrong species. The remaining species of the Galactic Council, those who had surrendered early, watched in absolute terror. They returned every human they held. They paid massive reparations. They signed treaties giving humanity anything Earth demanded. They did everything they could to avoid becoming the next target. Park's fleet finally returned to Earth orbit. The ships came home to cheering crowds who celebrated the freed captives returning home. 5 billion humans had been rescued from slavery. Humanity was victorious. But Park stood on his bridge and felt no triumph. The cost of victory surrounded him. 4 civilizations extinct, his wife dead. Billions of people killed, many of them civilians who had never personally enslaved anyone. He had become something he did not recognize. Ambassador Min Jun came to see him before the fleet dispersed. "You did what you thought necessary. The freed slaves are grateful. Earth is safe. The galaxy will never threaten us again." "I killed my wife," Park said quietly. "The fire in the Morphean Nebula, she was there. I gave the order that killed her." Min Jun had no answer for that. He put a hand on Park's shoulder and stood in silence. "Was it worth it?" Park asked. "All these deaths, all this destruction. Did we save humanity or just become monsters?" "I do not know," Min Jun said honestly. "History will judge us. Our children will judge us. Right now, all I know is that humans are free and the galaxy is afraid. Whether that makes us heroes or villains, I cannot say." Park looked out at Earth, beautiful and blue below. Somewhere on that planet, his daughters were waiting for him. They had been found in the first wave of returns, traumatized but alive. He would see them soon. He would have to explain what he had done and why. He would have to live with the look in their eyes when they understood the price of their freedom. "Send a message to the fleet," Park said. "All ships stand down. The war is over. We won." But as he said the words, Park wondered if anyone had really won at all. 1 year after the war ended, Commander Park Ji-woo stood in a courtroom on Earth, facing charges of genocide. The prosecutor was human. The judges were human. His accusers were his own people, demanding justice for the billions of aliens who had died under his command. Commander Park gave orders that resulted in the complete extinction of 4 sentient species, the prosecutor said. Trillions of individuals, many of them civilians, including children. He ignored surrender offers. He continued attacks even after our people were freed. These are crimes against all sentient life. Park's defense attorney argued back. Commander Park saved 5 billion humans from slavery. He protected Earth when no one else could. He did what was necessary to ensure humanity would never be threatened again. In war, difficult choices must be made. The trial lasted 3 months. Every day, Park sat and listened to the evidence. Recordings of dying civilizations, casualty estimates, testimony from freed slaves who were grateful but horrified, testimony from his own crew who had followed his orders without question. Ambassador Min-Jun Kim testified as a witness. "I told Commander Park to stop. After the first surrenders, after we began recovering our people, I begged him to show mercy. He refused. He believed total extinction was the only way to guarantee humanity's safety." "Do you agree with his decision?" the prosecutor asked. Min-Jun hesitated. "I understand why he did it. I even understand the logic. But understanding something does not mean accepting it. We had won. Our people were coming home. The continued killing was not defense. It was vengeance." Park's daughters attended every day of the trial. They sat in the gallery and watched their father being judged. They had been freed from slavery, found in a Krell colony by human rescue teams. They were 12 and 14 now, old enough to understand what had happened to them and what their father had done to free them. When Park finally testified, he did not try to hide behind justifications or military necessity. "I gave the orders. I knew what the weapons would do. I knew civilians would die. I ordered it anyway because I believed the galaxy needed to learn that enslaving humanity had permanent consequences." "Do you regret your actions?" the judge asked. Park looked at his daughters in the gallery. "I regret that it was necessary. I regret that my wife died in the fire I set. I regret that I had to become someone capable of ordering extinction. But I do not regret saving my daughters and the billions of other humans who were enslaved. If I had to make the choice again, knowing everything I know now, I would make the same decision." The courtroom fell silent. The judge deliberated for a week before delivering the verdict. Commander Park Ji-woo is found guilty of excessive use of force and crimes against sentient life. However, the court recognizes the extraordinary circumstances that led to these actions. Humanity faced extinction as a free species. Commander Park's actions, while extreme, resulted in the liberation of 5 billion humans and the protection of Earth. Therefore, the sentence is confinement to Earth for life, with the rank and honors maintained. He will not see prison, but he will never leave this planet. Park accepted the sentence without argument. He had expected worse. Many people thought he deserved execution. Many others thought he deserved a medal. The compromise satisfied no one completely. The galaxy had changed dramatically in 1 year. The surviving species of the former Galactic Council existed in constant fear. They paid tribute to Earth regularly. They avoided human space. They did exactly what humanity told them to do. The peace was real, but it was built on terror rather than respect. New human colonies spread out across the galaxy, taking territory that had once belonged to the extinct species. The expansion was unopposed. No one dared tell humanity where they could or could not go. Earth had become the dominant power in known space by proving they would rather destroy the entire galaxy than accept slavery. But the cost weighed on humanity. The freed slaves struggled to reintegrate. Many had been enslaved for years, treated as property, separated from families. They came home to a civilization that had committed genocide to rescue them. Some felt grateful, others felt guilty. All of them were traumatized. The younger generation, those who had not lived through the harvest, questioned what had been done in their name. Universities held debates about the ethics of extinction as a defensive strategy. Some argued it was justified, others argued humanity had lost its moral authority. The arguments never ended. Park returned to a small apartment in Seoul. His daughters lived with him, but their relationship was strained. They loved him because he was their father. They were grateful he had saved them. But they had nightmares about what they had experienced, and they knew their rescue had cost billions of lives. "Do you think we are bad people?" his younger daughter, Gia, asked him one night. "The aliens at school say humans are monsters. They say we killed their grandparents." Park did not lie to her. "We did terrible things, but they were done to protect you and everyone else. Does that make us bad? I do not know. You will have to decide that for yourself when you are older." "I wish it never happened," she said quietly. "I wish they had never taken us. Then you would not have had to do those things." "I wish that too," Park said. Min-jun visited Park occasionally. The ambassador had been appointed as Earth's representative to what remained of the Galactic Council. He spent his time trying to rebuild diplomatic relationships and prove humanity could be peaceful again. It was difficult work. The galaxy remembered the burning nebulas and dying stars. "How is the diplomatic situation?" Park asked during one visit. "Terrified," Min-jun said bluntly. "Every species walks on eggshells around us. They agree to every human demand. They compliment our culture. They act like they always supported us. But I see the fear in their eyes. They think we might decide to exterminate them next if they displease us." "Maybe that fear is necessary," Park said. "Maybe it keeps everyone safe." "Fear is not friendship," Min-jun said. "Fear is not respect. Fear is just waiting for the next atrocity. We wanted to be part of the galactic community. Now we rule it through terror. Is that really what we wanted?" Park had no answer. He had saved humanity, but lost something in the process. He could see it in his daughter's eyes. He could see it in the way other humans looked at him, hero and monster, savior and killer, both at the same time. On the anniversary of the war's end, Park visited a memorial that had been built in Earth's orbit. It was a strange structure, built to honor multiple groups. One section listed the names of humans who had died in the harvest. Another section listed the names of human soldiers who had died in the war. And a final section, the most controversial one, listed the names of the 4 extinct species. Park stood before that final section and read the names carved there: Vrex, Thalon, Zeraf, Morphean, Dexari, Solvorian, Kryn, Heptar, 4 complete civilizations, trillions of individuals, gone forever because they had threatened humanity. Min-jun found him there. "I am surprised you come here." "Someone should remember them," Park said. "Not to mourn them, not to regret what we did, but to remember that extinction is permanent. Once a species is gone, it can never come back. What we did can never be undone." They stood together in silence, looking at the names. "Do you think it was worth it?" Min-jun asked. "All these deaths for our freedom?" Park thought of his daughters, alive and free. He thought of the 5 billion rescued slaves. He thought of the galaxy that would never again dare to enslave humanity. "Yes," he said finally, "it was worth it. But that does not mean it was right." "Sometimes the necessary choice and the right choice are not the same thing." "Then we must live with what we chose," Min-jun said. "Yes, we must live with it." They returned to Earth together, leaving the memorial behind. Below them, the planet turned peacefully in space. Around it orbited the largest military fleet in the galaxy. Human ships, armed with weapons that could erase civilizations, ready to defend humanity against any threat. The galaxy was at peace. Humanity was safe. The price had been paid in full, in blood and fire and extinct species. Park's daughters grew up in this new galaxy. They went to schools where alien children feared them, and human children looked at them with pity. They carried the weight of being rescued at the cost of billions. They learned to live with it because they had no choice. Years later, Jia asked her father one final question. If you could go back and change it, would you? Park looked at his daughter, free and alive, standing in the sunshine on Earth's surface. Behind her, the sky was filled with human ships that guaranteed no one would ever threaten her again. No, he said honestly. I would not change it. You are here. You are free. That is all that matters. Even though Mom died? Even though billions died? Even then. Jia nodded slowly, accepting the answer she had expected. She hugged her father and whispered, I am glad I am alive, Dad, but I wish the cost had not been so high. So do I, Park said. Every single day. The galaxy turned. Humanity spread across the stars. The freed slaves rebuilt their lives. The extinct species remained extinct, remembered only in databases and memorials. Earth stood alone in its terrible strength, respected by none and feared by all. They had won their freedom. They had guaranteed their survival. They had proven that humanity would choose extinction over slavery, both for themselves and for anyone who threatened them. The question of whether that made them heroes or monsters remained unanswered. Perhaps it always would be. Perhaps some questions have no good answers, only necessary ones. Park stood on Earth and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, 4 species used to live. 4 civilizations with their own histories, cultures, dreams. Gone now, gone forever. Gone because they had made humanity choose between slavery and genocide. Humanity had chosen genocide, and now they had to live with that choice forever. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council was a sight that still amazed visitors after centuries of operation. The massive sphere floated in orbit around Zentara Prime, its walls made of transparent metal that showed the stars beyond. 47 species had seats in this chamber, each represented by their finest diplomats and leaders. Today, they had gathered to celebrate what they called progress. Ambassador Kim Ji-woo stood alone at the center of the chamber floor. She was a small woman by human standards, barely reaching 5.5 feet tall. Her black hair was pulled back in a simple style, and she wore the plain gray uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. Around her, the raised seats of the council members formed a circle, making her feel like an insect under observation. Chancellor Vexnar spoke first. He was a Zentaran, tall and covered in blue scales that caught the light. His species had founded the council 3,000 years ago, and he never let anyone forget it. Ambassador Kim, we have asked you here as a courtesy. The council has voted, and the decision is final. Our expedition fleet will enter Sector 7 Null in 3 days. Kim looked up at him without expression. Chancellor, I must ask the council to reconsider. That sector is forbidden for good reason. Laughter echoed through the chamber. It came from at least a dozen different species, each with their own way of showing amusement. The sound mixed together into something that made Kim's jaw tighten. Science Director Culmeans leaned forward in his seat. He was a Keltorian with 4 arms and skin that changed colors with his emotions. Right now, it showed bright yellow, the color of excitement. Ambassador, your species claimed that sector 300 years ago. You have no colonies there, no mining operations, no stations. You simply declared it forbidden and expected us all to obey. He spread all 4 arms wide. The council has been patient, but patience has limits. Space belongs to all of us. We declared it forbidden to protect you, Kim said quietly. Her voice was soft, but it carried clearly in the chamber's perfect acoustics. To protect everyone. More laughter. Chancellor Vexinar's scales rippled with what his species showed as contempt. Protect us? From what? We have scanned that sector for decades. It is empty. No life signs. No energy readings. Nothing but old rocks and dead space. He pointed one clawed finger at Kim. Your species tries to hoard resources and uses fear to justify it. This is exactly why humanity should never have been given a council seat. Kim closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them again, something had changed in her face. The diplomats closest to the floor would later say her expression reminded them of someone attending a funeral. Chancellor, I am formally requesting that you delay the expedition by 1 month. Give me time to show you why that sector must remain closed. Request denied, Vexnar said immediately. This discussion is over. Then I am formally warning you, Kim said, her voice still quiet but now carrying an edge like cold steel. You stepped where you shouldn't have. The chamber fell silent. It was rare for anyone to challenge the Chancellor so directly. Even the translation devices seemed to pause, making sure they had rendered her words correctly in all 47 languages. Counselor Merhana, an elderly female from the peaceful Delphian species, leaned forward. Her kind were known for their wisdom and careful thought. Ambassador Kim, your tone concerns me. Is this a threat? No, Counselor, Kim replied, turning to face the Delphian. It is a statement of fact. Your expedition will enter Sector 7 null. You will make discoveries there, and those discoveries will have consequences. She paused. We have tried for 3 centuries to spare you from those consequences. We built our defense perimeter. We maintained the watch. We kept the boundaries secure. All we asked in return was that you respect the barriers we set. Defense perimeter? Kalmin's skin shifted to orange, showing confusion. What defense perimeter? There are no human military vessels in that region. Kim's lips pressed into a thin line. Director, there are 47 human vessels in that region. They are always there. They have been there for 300 years, rotating crews every 6 months. We maintain stations you have never detected. We fight battles you have never seen. She looked around the chamber, meeting as many eyes as she could. We have protected you in silence because we hoped you would never need to know what we were protecting you from. Lies! Vexnar slammed his hand against his console. If there were human ships in that sector, we would know. Our sensors would detect them. Your sensors detect what they are designed to find, Kim said. They look for energy signatures, heat, radiation, communications. Our Guardian fleet runs on minimal power. They maintain communication silence. They drift in the dark and wait. She turned back to the Chancellor. They wait for exactly what your expedition is about to wake up. The chamber erupted in voices. Some laughed harder than before. Others looked uncertain. A few of the older species representatives, those whose civilizations had survived for thousands of years, watched Kim with careful attention. Ambassador Thel Ross of the Corvan Empire stood. His people were warriors, proud and strong. If what you say is true, show us proof. Transmit coordinates of these ghost ships. Let us see this threat you claim to fight. Kim shook her head. If I did that, Captain Thelross, you would send ships to investigate. More people would enter the sector. More people would be at risk. She looked up at him. The answer is no. Then this hearing is pointless, Vexnar declared. He stood, his full height making him tower over his console. The expedition launches in 3 days. Ambassador Kim, humanity's objections are noted and rejected. You may return to Earth and inform your government that the age of human secrets is over. Kim stood in silence for a long moment. Then she reached into her uniform pocket and pulled out a small data chip. She held it up for everyone to see. This chip contains 300 years of records, battle logs, casualty reports, tactical analyses, coordinates of graves. Her hand closed around it. I was ordered not to share it unless absolutely necessary. I believe we have reached that point. She walked to the chamber's central podium and inserted the chip. Holographic displays filled the air above her head. They showed sensor logs, video footage from ships, and lists of names. So many names. Every display was marked with a red border, the universal symbol for classified military data. The chamber went quiet as representatives began to read. Kim watched their faces change as they processed what they were seeing. Confusion, disbelief, and slowly, for some, the first hints of fear. These records are 300 years old, Kim said. They document our first encounter with what waits in Sector 7 Null. We lost 4 colony ships, 73,000 people. We barely escaped with the knowledge of what we had found. She looked around the chamber. We have spent every day since then making sure no one else has to face what we faced. We built the barriers. We stood the watch. We died in silence. Chancellor Vexnar's scales had paled to a light blue. This could be fabricated. It could be, Kim agreed. You will discover the truth in 3 days. She removed the data chip and held it in her palm. When you do, when your expedition finds what sleeps in that sector, remember this moment. Remember that humanity tried to warn you, tried to protect you. She placed the chip back in her pocket. We will do everything we can to save your people. But Chancellor, Science Director, honored council members, please understand this truth. You stepped where you shouldn't have. She turned and walked toward the chamber exit. Behind her, voices rose in argument. Some called her back, others dismissed her words. But Kim Ji-woo did not stop. She had delivered her warning. Now all she could do was prepare for what came next. As the chamber doors closed behind her, she touched the communication device in her ear. This is Ambassador Kim. Alert the Guardian Fleet. Tell them to go to high alert status. The Council expedition launches in 3 days. A voice crackled in her ear. Understood, Ambassador. Should we begin evacuation protocols? Kim closed her eyes. Not yet, but have the ships ready. When the call comes, it will come fast. She paused. And contact Earth Command. Tell them I may have failed. She walked down the empty corridor, her footsteps echoing in the silence. Somewhere far away, in a sector of space the galaxy had forgotten, ancient machines were waiting. In 3 days, they would wake up. And then the galaxy would understand why humanity had nightmares about the dark. Captain Thelros stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel Bright Discovery and felt proud. His ship was the largest in the expedition fleet, carrying the most advanced sensors and the finest crew the Council could provide. Behind him, 17 other ships maintained perfect formation as they approached the boundary of Sector 7 Null. We are crossing the human boundary line now, Captain, his navigator reported. The navigator was a young Zentaran female, her scales showing the green color of excitement mixed with nervousness. Thelros nodded. He was Corvin, a species that had earned its reputation through courage and strength. His people did not believe in fear of empty space. Maintain course. All ships begin deep sensor sweeps. Let us see what the humans were so afraid of. Science Director Kallman stood at the sensor station, his forearms moving across multiple displays at once. His skin rippled through several colors as data poured in. Captain, initial readings show nothing unusual. Background radiation is normal. No energy signatures detected. No artificial structures. He looked up, his skin settling into a satisfied orange. Just as we predicted. The sector is empty. Continue deeper, Thelros ordered. We will prove there is nothing here to fear. The fleet moved forward into the sector. Around them, space looked like any other region of the galaxy. Stars shone in the distance. Asteroids drifted in their ancient patterns. Nothing seemed wrong. Nothing seemed dangerous. For 3 days they searched. The ships moved in careful patterns, their sensors reaching out in all directions. They found old asteroids. They found dust clouds. They found the usual debris that filled any sector of space. But they found nothing that explained why humanity had declared this region forbidden. "This is a waste of time," Kalmin said on the 3rd day. His skin showed purple, the color of frustration. "There is nothing here. The humans have been guarding empty space for 3 centuries. But Thelros had begun to feel uncomfortable. He could not explain why. He was a warrior, trained to trust his instincts, and something felt wrong. The sector was too empty, too clean. Space was never this empty. There should be more debris, more asteroids, more of the normal chaos that filled the universe. "Director," he said slowly, "does the emptiness not strike you as odd?" Kalmans waved one hand dismissively. "Space is vast, Captain. Empty regions are common. Not like this." Thelros pulled up a star chart. "Look at the surrounding sectors. They all have normal density of matter, asteroids, comets, dust. But here?" He highlighted Sector 7 null. "Here it is all pushed to the edges. The center is almost completely clear." The science director moved closer to examine the data. His skin slowly shifted to yellow, then orange, then to a color Thelros had never seen before. A pale, sickly blue. "Captain," Kalmin said quietly, "something cleared this sector. Something pushed all the matter to the edges." "What could do that?" "I do not know, but Captain, I recommend we—" The alarm cut him off. Every screen on the bridge flashed red. The sensor operator, a 3-eyed Belkarian, shouted in panic. "Contact! Multiple contacts! They are coming from beneath us!" "Beneath us?" Thelros looked at the display. Space had no up or down, no beneath or above, but he understood what the operator meant. From the direction of the galactic plane's lower edge, something was rising toward them. Many somethings. "What are they?" he demanded. "Scanning now." Kalmin's skin had turned completely white, all color drained away. "Captain, I am reading massive energy signatures. They are artificial, designed, and they are old. Very, very old." The main screen showed what their sensors had found. Thelros felt his blood turn cold. Rising from below the galactic plane were structures, massive structures. Each one was the size of a small moon, made of black metal that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They were perfect spheres, completely smooth, except for patterns carved into their surfaces. Patterns that looked like mathematical formulas, like instructions. "How many?" Thelros whispered. "Counting now. 12, 15, 20. The sensor operator's voice shook. "Captain, they keep coming. I count 47 now. No, 50. They are rising from some kind of dormant position." Kalmin stared at his readings. "Captain, these structures have been here the entire time. They were powered down, completely dark. Our scans passed right over them because they were emitting nothing, no heat, no energy. They were dead. And now? Now they are waking up." The structures began to change. Sections of their surfaces split open, revealing interiors that glowed with a sick green light. From inside each structure, smaller objects began to emerge. They were the size of ships, but they moved wrong. Too fast, too precise, like they knew exactly where to go and what to do. "Are they ships?" Thelros asked. "I do not think so." Kalmins worked his controls frantically. "They read as drones, automated units. Captain, I am detecting weapon systems, very powerful weapon systems, and they are targeting us." "Shields up, battle stations, all ships, prepare for evasive—" The first structure fired before he could finish the order. A beam of green energy lanced across space and struck the science vessel, Explorer's Dream. The beam did not explode the ship. It did something worse. The ship simply stopped. Every light went dark. Every engine went silent. And then the ship began to dissolve. Its hull broke apart into individual molecules that drifted away like dust. "What was that?" someone screamed. "Molecular disintegration," Kalmin said. His voice had gone flat, emotionless. It was the sound of someone who had stopped feeling fear because the fear was too great. "That weapon broke down the atomic bonds holding the ship together." More beams fired. The heavy cruiser Valiant's Pride tried to dodge. The beam followed it with perfect accuracy. Another ship gone, turned to dust in seconds. "Return fire," Thelros ordered. "All ships, return fire." The fleet's weapons opened up. Missiles streaked across space. Energy weapons blazed. Kinetic rounds flew at tremendous speeds. Every weapon struck the black structure's dead center. The explosions were massive, bright enough to hurt the eyes. When the light faded, the structures were unchanged. Not a single mark showed on their surfaces. "Impossible," Kalmins breathed. The drones were among them now. They moved through the fleet like predators through prey. One drone attached itself to the side of a destroyer. Metal tentacles emerged from its body and began cutting into the ship's hull. Crew members' screams came over the communication channels as the atmosphere vented into space. "All ships, retreat!" Thelros shouted. "Fall back to the boundary! Get out of this sector!" But the drones were faster. They cut off escape routes. They herded the ships like animals. More green beams fired. More ships dissolved into nothing. In less than 10 minutes, the expedition had lost 7 vessels. 7 ships and all their crew erased from existence. Thelros watched his tactical display as ships blinked out one by one. His hands gripped the arms of his command chair so hard his claws cut into the metal. He had led these people here. He had dismissed the human warnings. He had been so sure of himself, so certain that humanity was simply being territorial. "Send a distress call," he said quietly. "Maximum power. All frequencies. Tell them we found something. Tell them the humans were right." The communication officer worked her controls with shaking hands. "Message sent, Captain. Broadcasting continuously." "Good." Thelros looked at his crew. They were all watching him, waiting for orders. They trusted him. They believed he could save them. He had to try. "All power to engines and shields. We run for the boundary. Stay together. Protect each other. We will get out of this." But even as he said it, he knew it was probably a lie. The structures were fully active now. The drones filled the space around them like a swarm of insects. And somewhere in the back of his mind, Thelros understood a terrible truth. These things had been sleeping here for who knew how long. The human scans must have detected them somehow. Humanity had found them and learned what they were. And then humanity had spent 300 years making sure no one woke them up. Until now. Until the Council, in its arrogance, had come looking for what they thought was treasure or resources, and instead, they had rung the dinner bell for something that should have stayed asleep forever. A new message appeared on his screen. It was coded with human diplomatic encryption. Thelros opened it with trembling hands. The message was from Ambassador Kim Ji-woo. It contained only 7 words. "Stay alive. We're coming. Hold on." Thelros looked at those words for a long moment. Then he turned to his crew. "You heard the ambassador. We hold on. We survive. The humans are coming." "Can they help us?" his navigator asked. Her scales had gone pale white with fear. Thelros looked at the structures on his screen, at the drones that hunted his ships, at the green beams that erased matter itself. "I don't know," he said honestly, "but right now, they are our only hope." Another ship died, and another. The expedition fleet was being torn apart. All around them, in the darkness of Sector 7 Null, ancient machines continued to wake up, and they were hungry. The emergency session of the Galactic Council began in chaos. Representatives shouted at each other across the chamber. Displays showed the desperate transmissions from Sector 7 Null, each one more frightening than the last. Ships destroyed, crew members killed, and something ancient awakening in the dark. Chancellor Vexnar stood at his position, his scales showing colors that shifted between anger and fear. "How many ships have we lost?" "7 confirmed destroyed," a military advisor reported. 3 more heavily damaged. "The expedition is trying to retreat, but these machines are preventing escape." "What are they?" Counselor Merhana asked. The elderly Delphian's voice shook. "What did we wake up?" No one had an answer. The screens showed images captured by the expedition's sensors. The massive black spheres, the drones that moved too fast, the weapons that turned solid matter into dust. Every representative in the chamber stared at these images and felt the same cold fear. "Where is Ambassador Kim?" someone called out. "She left for Earth 3 days ago," Vexnar said, "immediately after our last session." "Contact her. Contact Earth. We need to know what they know about these things." A communication officer spoke from his station near the chamber wall. "Chancellor, we are receiving a transmission. It is on all human diplomatic frequencies, and military frequencies, and emergency frequencies. The humans are broadcasting to everyone." "Play it," Vexnar ordered. The chamber's speakers crackled to life. Ambassador Kim's voice filled the space. She sounded tired, but calm. "To all Galactic Council members and citizens, this is Ambassador Kim Ji-woo of Earth. By now you have received distress calls from Sector 7 Null. You know that the expedition has encountered hostile forces. What you do not know is what those forces are, or why humanity has guarded that sector for 3 centuries. Images began appearing on the chamber's displays. They showed human ships, dozens of them. But these were not the civilian vessels or light patrol craft the Council was familiar with. These were warships, heavy warships. Their hulls were covered in armor plating. Their sides bristled with weapons. They were painted in dark colors, designed to hide in the black of space. 300 years ago, Kim continued, humanity made first contact with what we call the Harvesters. We lost 4 colony ships in that first encounter. 73,000 people died learning what these machines do. They harvest. They consume. They break down any biological matter and any civilization into base components. More images appeared. These showed the black spheres from different angles, close-up views of the drones, diagrams showing how their weapons worked, and lists, long lists of dates and locations. Each entry showed a human ship and a battle. Some battles were won, many were lost. The dates started 300 years ago and continued right up to the present day. "We learned that the Harvesters were not natural," Kim said. "Someone built them. Some civilization created these machines and then either lost control of them or was destroyed by them. We do not know which. What we do know is that they are programmed to destroy any spacefaring civilization they detect. They sleep until they sense ships entering their territory. Then they wake up. And they harvest." Silence filled the council chamber. Representatives stared at the screens, reading the battle reports, the casualty numbers, seeing the terrible arithmetic of 300 years of warfare. "Humanity discovered 17 sectors containing harvester spheres," Kim continued. "We have maintained guard over all 17 sectors. We have fought 347 separate engagements with harvester forces. We have lost 62 ships. 40,000 soldiers and crew members have died protecting the galaxy from a threat you never knew existed." Chancellor Vexnar felt something inside him break. He had called humanity territorial. He had accused them of hoarding resources. He had laughed at their warnings, and all the while they had been fighting and dying to protect everyone, including him. "Why didn't you tell us?" he whispered. As if hearing his question, Kim's message continued. "We did not reveal the Harvesters for several reasons. First, if we told you about them, you would want to study them, to understand them, and that would bring more ships to the sectors, risking more awakening events. Second, we learned that Harvester drones can be collected. Their technology could be reverse engineered. We feared that some species might try to claim this technology, might even try to control the harvesters. We could not allow that risk. New images appeared. These showed human vessels that looked different from the warships. They were older designs, ancient by galactic standards. Their hulls showed damage from countless battles, scorch marks, repaired sections. These were not ceremonial ships kept for parades. These were working vessels, used hard and maintained lovingly. The human defense fleet has maintained continuous operations in all 17 sectors for 3 centuries, Kim said. We call them the Guardian Fleet. They operate on communication silence. They run on minimal power to avoid detection. Every 6 months we rotate crews. Every 5 years we rotate ships. Thousands of humans have served in the Guardian Fleet. Most of them never told their families what they did or where they served. It is classified at the highest level. On the displays, images showed young human faces. Crew photos from Guardian Fleet vessels. Thousands of faces. Tens of thousands. All of them young. All of them serious. These were people who had volunteered to fight in secret, to die without glory, to protect a galaxy that did not know they existed. Our Guardian Fleet detected your expedition the moment it entered Sector 7 Null, Kim said. We immediately went to high alert. When the harvesters woke up, we were already moving. Her voice hardened slightly. Our ships will arrive in approximately 6 hours. Captain Thelros, if you are receiving this, hold on. Do whatever you must to survive. We are coming. The message ended. The council chamber remained silent for a long moment. Then everyone started talking at once. 6 hours? Someone shouted. Earth is weeks away from Sector 7 Null. Those ships, another representative said, pointing at the displays. Look at their positions. They're not coming from Earth. They're already out there, stationed around the sector. Councillor Merhana stood slowly. Her old body shook, but her voice was steady. Chancellor Vexnar, we must send our own fleet to assist. Our ships are not designed to fight these machines, Vexnar said. His scales had gone pale. You saw what their weapons do. We cannot help. Then we witness, Merhana said firmly. We witness what humanity has done in our name. We bear witness to their sacrifice. More voices joined hers. Representatives from a dozen species all demanding the same thing. Send ships, send support, do something. Vexnar looked at them all. He thought about how he had treated Ambassador Kim, how he had dismissed her warnings, how he had laughed at humanity's concerns. Shame burned through him hotter than any anger. Send the fleet, he ordered. Everything we have. If we cannot fight, we can at least evacuate the wounded. We can at least see what the humans have been protecting us from. Chancellor, his military advisor said carefully, if we send our fleet into that sector and more harvesters wake up, then humanity will protect us again, Vexnar said quietly. As they have always done, without asking for thanks, without seeking glory, they have earned the right to lead us in this. We will follow. The orders went out. The council fleet began to mobilize, medical ships, rescue vessels, even a few warships, though no one believed they would be useful against the harvesters. In the center of the chamber, a holographic timer appeared. It showed the estimated time until the Guardian fleet arrived at Sector 7 Null. 6 hours, 360 minutes. Every representative watched those numbers count down. Somewhere in the dark between stars, human ships raced toward a battle they had prepared for all their lives, ships with names like Eternal Vigil and Guardian's Promise, ships crewed by men and women who had volunteered to stand between civilization and the things that waited in the dark. And at the center of that fleet, aboard the command ship, Ambassador Kim Jiwoo sat in her small cabin. She had changed from her diplomatic uniform into the simple gray jumpsuit of a Guardian fleet observer. On her desk sat a datapad showing faces, the faces of every human who had died fighting harvesters over the past 300 years. She touched the screen gently, her finger tracing over the images. "We're coming," she whispered to them, to the dead who had held the line before her. "We won't let their sacrifice be in vain. We'll bring them home." Outside her window, the stars streaked past as the ship traveled at maximum speed. In 6 hours, they would reach Sector 7 null. In 6 hours, the galaxy would finally see what humanity had been fighting for 3 centuries. In 6 hours, everything would change. Captain Thel Ross watched another ship die. The Council vessel Merchant's Hope simply stopped existing as a green beam cut through its center. He did not even know how many ships they had lost now. More than half the expedition. Maybe more than that. His tactical display was full of red markers showing destroyed vessels and debris fields. "Captain, we cannot hold this position much longer," his tactical officer reported. The young officer's voice shook with exhaustion. They had been fighting for 6 hours with no rest, no relief. Just endless combat against machines that never tired and never stopped. "We hold until the humans arrive," Thel Ross said. He gripped his command chair and watched the drones swarm around his ship. The Bright Discovery's shields were down to 30%. Life support was running on backup power. They had maybe an hour left before the ship was completely dead. "Contact!" the sensor operator shouted. "New signatures! Multiple ships entering the sector!" Thel Ross's heart jumped, but he forced himself to stay calm. It could be more harvesters, more of the ancient machines awakening. "Identify them!" "Scanning! Captain, they're human! It's the Guardian fleet!" The main screen changed to show the new arrivals. Thel Ross had seen many human ships before. Diplomatic vessels, trading ships, research craft. These ships were nothing like those. These were predators, sleek and dark, covered in armor that made them almost invisible against the black of space. They moved in perfect formation, their spacing precise down to the meter. And there were so many of them. Thel Ross counted 30 heavy cruisers, 50 destroyers, hundreds of smaller craft. The humans had brought an entire fleet, a hidden fleet that had been waiting out in the dark all this time. "All Council vessels, this is Admiral Park Min-ho of the Guardian Fleet," a voice came over the emergency channel. The Admiral's voice was calm, almost gentle. "We are taking command of this engagement. Follow our instructions exactly and we will get you out of here." "Admiral, thank you," Thel Ross said. His voice broke slightly. He had not realized until that moment how close to breaking he had been. "We are ready to follow your orders." "Good. Captain Thel Ross, pull your ship back to coordinates I am transmitting now. Medical frigates will meet you there to evacuate your wounded. All other Council ships retreat to the same position. Form a defensive sphere. Do not engage the harvesters. Let us handle them." Thel Ross followed the orders. His ship turned and began moving toward the coordinates. Around him, the remaining Council vessels did the same. As they pulled back, the Guardian fleet moved forward. The harvesters focused on the new arrivals immediately. Dozens of drones swarmed toward the human ships. The massive spheres began charging their weapons, green light building in their depths. "Here they come," someone whispered on the bridge. The harvesters fired. Beams of green energy lanced across space toward the human fleet. But the human ships were already moving. They scattered in perfectly coordinated patterns, each ship knowing exactly where every other ship would be. The beams passed through empty space where ships had been moments before. "How did they do that?" Science Director Kalmins breathed. He had been silent for hours, staring at his readings in shock. Now his skin flickered between colors too fast to identify. They moved before the harvesters fired, as if they knew what was coming. They did know, Thel Ross said slowly, understanding dawning on him. They have fought these machines for 300 years. They know how harvesters target, how they think. The humans have studied every aspect of their enemy. The Guardian fleet returned fire. But they did not use energy weapons or missiles like the Council ships had. Instead, they fired solid projectiles, massive rounds of metal moving at incredible speeds. The rounds were not explosive. They were just metal. Simple, heavy metal. The projectiles struck the Harvester spheres with tremendous force, and to Thelross's amazement, they worked. The spheres rocked from the impacts. Pieces of their black armor cracked and broke away. The humans had found the one weakness the Harvesters had. Their weapons could destroy almost anything, but their armor was just armor. Kinetic force could break it. "Target the drones." Admiral Park's voice came over the command channel. "Pattern Delta 7, fire on my mark." The human fleet shifted formation. Suddenly, instead of fighting as individual ships, they moved as one organism. Destroyers created a wall of weapons fire. Cruisers positioned themselves as anchors. Smaller craft darted between the larger ships, drawing drone attacks and leading the drones into kill zones. It was beautiful, terrifying, and beautiful at the same time. This was not how the Council fought battles. Council fleets were made of individual ships, each captain making their own decisions. But the Guardian fleet fought as a single unit with a single mind. Every ship trusted every other ship completely. "Mark," Admiral Park said calmly. Every human ship fired at once. The concentrated fire caught 3 drones and tore them apart. Metal and circuitry scattered across space. The remaining drones immediately changed tactics, trying to adapt to the new threat. But the humans adapted faster. They shifted to a new formation, changed their fire patterns, moved in ways that made the drones' calculations fail. This was what 300 years of experience looked like. This was what happened when a species prepared for one specific enemy and learned every possible way to fight them. "Captain Thelross," a new voice spoke on a private channel. It was Ambassador Kim. "I am aboard the command ship. Are you injured?" "I am fine, Ambassador," Thelross said. He felt tears building in his eyes, tears of relief, tears of shame. I am sorry. You tried to warn us. I did not listen." "We will discuss that later," Kim said gently. "Right now, I need you to help coordinate the evacuation of your people. Can you do that?" Yes, I can do that." "Good. Medical ships are approaching your position now. Transfer your wounded first. Then we will get everyone else to safety." Thelross watched as human medical frigates approached. They were painted white with red crosses, the ancient human symbol for medical care. The frigates formed a protective ring around the Council ships. Human fighter craft circled them like guardian angels. "We are here now," Kim said softly. "You are safe." On the main screen, the battle continued. More Harvester spheres were awakening. The humans had destroyed 5 of them, but 10 more rose from the depths. 50 drones had been destroyed, but 100 more emerged to replace them. "Ambassador," Thelross said quietly, "can you win this battle?" There was a long pause. When Kim spoke again, her voice carried an emotion Thelross could not identify. Sadness, perhaps, or resignation. "Captain, we are not trying to win. We are trying to contain. The Harvesters cannot be defeated. They can only be put back to sleep. And that requires—" She trailed off. "Requires what?" "Sacrifices." On the tactical display, Thelross saw human ships moving into position around the Harvester spheres. They were forming a cage, a massive sphere of ships surrounding the enemy, and at the center of the human formation, one ship stood out. It was the largest vessel in the fleet, a dreadnought. Its hull was ancient, scarred from countless battles. Its name was written in large letters, Prometheus. "All ships, this is Admiral Park," the command channel crackled. "We are implementing Containment Protocol Alpha 7. The Prometheus will be our anchor. All other vessels, maintain your positions. Do not break formation no matter what happens." Thelros felt cold fear wash over him. "What is Protocol Alpha 7? Kim's voice answered him, but she was not speaking to him. She was speaking to her own people, to the humans who had spent their lives preparing for this moment. "Protocol Alpha 7 is our final option. The Prometheus will overload its reactor at the center of the Harvester formation. The explosion will create a temporary collapse in the hyperspace lanes. It will trap the Harvesters in normal space, unable to follow ships that jump away. They will be contained until they go dormant again." "A temporary collapse?" Coleman's turned to stare at Thelros. "That means anyone inside the collapse will be trapped. They will not be able to jump to hyperspace either." "Yes," Kim said simply. "The Prometheus crew volunteered for this mission. They understand what it means." "They will die," Thelros said. "All of them." "Yes." The simple truth of it hit Thelros like a physical blow. The humans were going to sacrifice an entire ship, hundreds of crew members, all to contain the Harvesters, all to protect the rest of the galaxy. "There must be another way," he said desperately. "There is not," Kim replied. "We have run this simulation 10,000 times over the past 3 centuries. This is the only way to guarantee containment when this many spheres wake up." She paused. "Captain, every person aboard the Prometheus knew this might happen. They accepted it. This is what it means to be Guardian Fleet. We stand between the galaxy and the dark, whatever the cost." On the screen, the Prometheus moved toward the center of the battle. Drones swarmed toward it. The massive ship's weapons fired continuously, clearing a path. Other Guardian Fleet ships moved to support it, sacrificing themselves to ensure the Prometheus reached its position. Thelros watched men and women die, watched ships explode, watched the humans fight with a determination and skill that came from 300 years of preparation. And he understood, finally, what humanity had been doing in the dark, what they had sacrificed, what they had become. "Ambassador Kim," he said softly, "when this is over, the Council will know. Everyone will know what you did, what humanity has done." "I hope so," Kim said. "Because, Captain, there are 16 other sectors we still guard, and we cannot do it alone anymore, not after this. We need help. We need the galaxy to stand with us." "They will," Thelros promised. "I will make them understand. I will make them see." "Thank you." The Prometheus reached its position. All around it, Harvester spheres closed in. The ancient machines sensed that something was wrong. They concentrated their fire on the dreadnought. The ship's shields flared and died. Armor plating melted under the assault, but the Prometheus held, and deep in its reactor core, something began to build. A light that grew brighter and brighter until it hurt to look at. The light from the Prometheus grew brighter. On the bridge of the bright discovery, Captain Thelros had to shield his eyes from the glare on the main screen. All around the massive dreadnought, space itself seemed to twist and bend. The Harvester spheres sensed the danger now. They tried to pull back, but the Guardian Fleet held them in place with coordinated fire and positioning. "All ships, prepare for hyperspace jump." Admiral Park's voice remained steady even now. "Council vessels, you will jump first. Guardian Fleet will jump in sequence. We will leave no one behind." Thelros felt his hands shake. He was about to run, to escape, while hundreds of humans aboard the Prometheus stayed behind to die. It felt wrong, cowardly, but he understood that his survival was part of their sacrifice. They needed witnesses. They needed someone to tell the galaxy what had happened here. "Captain," his navigator said softly. Her scales had turned a pale gray, the color of morning. "Jump coordinates are locked in." "Stand by," Thelros ordered. He could not look away from the Prometheus. That ship and its crew deserved to be seen, to be remembered. On the command channel, a new voice spoke. It was young and female, carrying a slight tremor. This is Captain Lee Soyon of the Prometheus. To all council ships, thank you for bearing witness. Tell them we stood here. Tell them we held the line." "We will," Thel Ross said, his voice breaking. "I swear it. Everyone will know." "Good." Captain Lee paused. "It has been an honor serving with the Guardian Fleet. To all my crew, you are the bravest people I have ever known. We do this so others can live. We do this because someone must. And we do this without regret." The Prometheus crew responded over the channel, hundreds of voices speaking as one. "We stand guard." Thel Ross felt tears streaming down his face. In Corvan culture, tears were a sign of deepest respect. A warrior's tribute to other warriors. He was not ashamed of them. "Council vessels," Admiral Park said. "Jump now." The council ships engaged their hyperspace drives and vanished. One by one, they escaped the sector. Thel Ross watched his screen as the bright Discovery entered hyperspace. The last thing he saw was the Prometheus, surrounded by enemies, shining like a small sun. Then the jump took hold, and space twisted around them. For a moment, Thel Ross existed in that strange space between places. When his ship emerged back into normal space, they were far from Sector 7 null. Safe. Alive. "Navigator, can we see the sector from here?" he asked. "No, Captain. We are too far away, but our long-range sensors are receiving data from Guardian Fleet relay stations." She worked her controls. "Putting it on screen now." The image was grainy and distorted, but clear enough. Thel Ross saw the Prometheus at the center of a sphere of harvester machines. The light from its reactor had become blinding. Space around the ship bent and twisted like water going down a drain. And then the ship exploded. But it was not a normal explosion. Instead of fire and debris, there was pure white light. The light expanded in a perfect sphere, consuming everything it touched. Harvesters, drones, the ancient spheres that had slept for millennia. All of it disappeared into the light. The light faded. Where it had been, space looked wrong, twisted, damaged. The sensor readings showed what Kim had described. The hyperspace lanes in that region had collapsed. Nothing could enter or leave using faster-than-light travel. The harvesters were trapped. And so were the remaining Guardian Fleet ships. "The Guardian Fleet," Thel Ross said urgently. "Did they escape?" "Checking now, Captain." The sensor operator worked frantically. "I am reading. Yes. Hyperspace signatures detected outside the collapse zone. Most of the Guardian Fleet jumped clear before the Prometheus detonated." "Most?" 40 ships remained behind. They are inside the collapse zone with the harvesters." 40 ships. That meant hundreds more crew members trapped. But at least most of the fleet had survived. Small comfort, but comfort nonetheless. "Captain," his communication officer said, "we are receiving a transmission. It is Ambassador Kim." "Put her through." Kim's face appeared on the screen. She looked tired. Her eyes were red, as if she had been crying, but her voice was calm. "Captain Thel Ross, are you and your crew safe?" "We are, Ambassador, thanks to your people." He paused. "I am sorry, so very sorry. We caused this." "You did not know," Kim said gently. "And now you do. That is what matters." She looked off screen for a moment, then back at him. "Captain, in approximately 2 hours, the entire Galactic Council will convene for an emergency session. You need to be there. You need to tell them everything you saw." "I will." "Good. Because this cannot happen again. There are 16 other sectors under Guardian Fleet protection. We have kept them secret for 300 years. But after today, we cannot maintain that secret. The galaxy needs to know what is out there. And the galaxy needs to help us guard against it." Thel Ross nodded. "What will happen to the ships trapped inside the collapse?" Kim's expression hardened. "The collapse will last approximately 6 months. During that time, the ships inside will continue fighting the harvesters. They will prevent them from reaching the edge of the zone. When the collapse ends, the harvesters will be dormant again. We hope. If they are not... She did not finish the sentence. I understand. The communication ended. Thelros sat in his command chair and looked at his crew. They all looked as exhausted and shaken as he felt. They had survived something that would give them nightmares for the rest of their lives. But they had also witnessed something extraordinary. They had seen what it meant to be human, to sacrifice everything for others without hesitation. 2 hours later, Thelros stood in the Galactic Council chamber. Every seat was filled. Every species was represented. The chamber was completely silent as Captain Lee Soyon's final words played over the speakers. When they ended, the silence continued. Chancellor Vexnar stood slowly. His scales were gray with shame. Ambassador Kim Ji-woo, please come forward. Kim walked to the center of the chamber floor. She wore her diplomatic uniform again, though Thelros could see scorch marks on one sleeve. She had been on a ship during the battle. She had been in the danger with everyone else. Ambassador, Vexnar said, and his voice shook. The Galactic Council has failed. We have failed in wisdom, failed in judgment, failed in gratitude. He looked around the chamber. For 300 years, humanity fought and died to protect us. They asked nothing in return except that we respect the boundaries they set, and we could not even give them that. Murmurs of agreement echoed through the chamber. Representatives from every species nodded. Some looked angry, most looked ashamed. Today, the Council witnessed what humanity has done in the dark, Vexnar continued. We saw your Guardian fleet. We saw your ships. We saw your people sacrifice themselves for strangers who had mocked you and dismissed you. He slowly descended from his raised seat and walked down to the chamber floor. When he reached Kim, he did something no council chancellor had done in 1,000 years. He knelt. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I ask for humanity's forgiveness, and I ask for your help, because we cannot face what you have faced. We need you. Kim looked at him for a long moment. Then she reached down and placed her hand on his shoulder. Stand up, Chancellor. There is no need to kneel. When he stood, she continued. Humanity does not want your guilt. We want your partnership. We want your help. Because you are right. We cannot do this alone anymore. She turned to face the chamber. Today, I am authorized to reveal the full extent of what humanity has been protecting you from. There are 16 other sectors like Sector 7 Null, 16 other places where harvesters sleep. We guard them all. We have lost 40,000 soldiers doing so. We have spent resources that could have built cities. We have sacrificed lives that could have lived in peace. Images appeared on the chamber displays. Star charts showing all 17 sectors. Lists of every battle fought. Names of every human who had died. We did this because it was necessary, Kim said, because someone had to stand between the galaxy and the dark. But now the secret is revealed. Now you know. So I ask you, Galactic Council, will you stand with us? Will you help guard these sectors? Will you join the Watch? The chamber erupted in voices. Every representative stood. Every species spoke at once. But they were all saying the same thing. Yes. Yes, we will help. Yes, we will stand with you. Councillor Merhana's voice cut through the noise. I propose the formation of the Jiwoo Accords, named in honor of Ambassador Kim Ji-woo, who tried to warn us. These accords will establish a joint defense force. Every species contributes ships and personnel. We will share the burden of guarding the sectors. We will share the sacrifice. The vote was unanimous. Every species agreed. Every representative committed their people to the defense of the galaxy. For the first time in Council history, the galaxy stood united in a single purpose. 3 months later, Ambassador Kim Ji-woo stood in a different place. not in a grand chamber or on a ship. She stood on a planet at the edge of Sector 7 Null. Around her, construction crews from a dozen species worked to build a memorial, a massive wall that would hold the names of every Guardian fleet member who had died in 300 years of service. Captain Thelross stood beside her. He wore the uniform of the new Joint Defense Force. Behind them, human instructors trained council soldiers in anti-harvester tactics. The galaxy was learning to fight, learning to guard. "Will it be enough?" Thelross asked quietly. "I don't know," Kim admitted. "But it is more than we had before, and it is what those who died would have wanted. They did not die for glory. They died so others could be safe. Now others will stand with us. That is a good thing." "You should be proud," Thelross said. "Your people did something extraordinary." Kim smiled sadly. "My people did what was necessary. Nothing more. But I am proud of what came after. I am proud that you stood before the council and told them the truth. I am proud that the galaxy chose to help rather than hide. That is extraordinary." A young human officer approached and saluted. "Ambassador, we just received word from the other sectors. The first Joint Defense Force ships are arriving on station. The galaxy is taking the watch." "Thank you, Lieutenant," Kim said. She turned back to the memorial wall. Workers were just beginning to carve the names. It would take years to finish. There were so many names, so many lives given in silence, but they would not be forgotten now. The galaxy would remember, the galaxy would honor them, and the galaxy would continue their work. Far above, in the darkness of space, human ships and alien ships flew together. They patrolled the boundaries of forbidden sectors. They stood guard over the things that slept in the dark. They held the line. And on Earth, in the halls of military command, Admiral Park Minho stood before a map showing all 17 sectors. Each one now had ships from multiple species orbiting it. The burden was shared. The watch was kept. He thought of the Prometheus, of Captain Lee Soyon and her crew, of all those who had stood guard over the centuries. And he made a promise to their memory. "We will hold the line," he whispered. "We will stand guard, and we will never let the galaxy forget what you gave." In the darkness between the stars, ancient machines slept. They dreamed their mechanical dreams and waited for the day they would wake again. But when that day came, they would not face humanity alone. They would face a galaxy united, a galaxy that had learned the price of safety, a galaxy that had chosen to stand together. The harvesters would wake again. That was certain. But when they did, they would find something they had never encountered before. Not just humans, not just one species standing defiant, but 47 species standing together. 47 species who had learned from humanity that some things were worth dying to protect. And maybe, just maybe, that would be enough.